even in the States.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right.
Yep.
All right. So hello and welcome to the Georgia Music Gamers podcast. As always, this is your host, Cyber, and I'm here joined with Jehan.
Hello.
He's my co-host on this tremendously special occasion. And you might be asking, why is it special? Well, today we have our highly esteemed guest, Brad Holmes, the one and only.
Yay!
How you doing, guys?
Thank you for being on the program with us.
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Brad Holmes is very busy, so we're going to try to... We're not going to keep it short, but we're going to move it along a little bit. So he's an accomplished musician. He was born in Australia, and now he lives in Tokyo, Japan. You probably know him best for his contributions to Konami games over the years, especially to GuitarFreaks and drummania. But he continues and is a very busy man. He's involved in all sorts of projects, both musical and commercial. He's loaned his voice to countless productions. He's a DJ, he's a vocal coach, and obviously a very talented singer. And he is the leader of the Hitman Band. You can find music links on his website, bradrockmusic.com. And they're also available on iTunes, j.a.b, and I believe it's also on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Hope so.
All right. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be part of the program. Before we begin, we'll just do a little icebreaker question. So what's the one thing that people might find surprising about you that isn't obvious based on your public reputation?
Now, that's a good question. I guess these days, I don't know what my public perception is, but these days I'm pretty much a family man. I've got 3 sons, teenage sons that have their own band as well. So I guess probably that fact. Yeah, I'm a family man these days.
I have some questions about your son's band later on. We'll get to that. So
Sure.
How long have you been playing instruments and composing music?
Well, I'd have to say I'm getting pretty old now, so probably about 35 years.
Oh, wow.
I started out playing the drums. I still do, actually, sometimes, for my kids' band sometimes. But yeah, excuse me, started playing the drums and then got into guitar a little later and singing sporadically through the years, but I'd sometimes not sing for a few years, and then I'd sing harmonies in whatever band I was in. But then I got seriously into singing toward the end of when I was in Australia, and then when I came to Japan, I really kind of pushed it more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that begs the question: what do you prefer? What's your preferred instrument?
Yeah, well, I guess these days I love singing. I really like singing, and also I do quite a bit of narration these days too. Just speaking in studio. So even last week I had a fairly busy week doing voices for Las Vegas slot machines, which is so lots of things like. Go for it, or winner, or bonus, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I really like that. But I also, I don't know, I love playing guitar too. I'm not a great lead guitarist or anything, but and then when I have a chance to get on the drums, I love that too. So yeah, it's hard to
a little bit of everything.
Hard to say.
Sounds like.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, great. Well, do you recall when you moved to Japan, and I guess how long have you been living there?
Well, I do travel quite a lot, and I go back to Australia at least a couple of times a year. But I've been based in Japan for, I think it's about 25. It hurts me to say, but I think it's about 25 years. But 25 years on and off, a bit of travel here and there. But yeah, but I mean, I've got to say, it's a pretty, depending on what you're doing in Japan, it's a pretty livable. Tokyo, we're right in the center of Tokyo, and it's quite a livable place, and there's a lot going on. So yeah, I'm kind of addicted to the excitement, I guess.
That's great. Yeah, John actually lived in Japan for a while in college, I think, right?
It was a while's stretching it. It was like a month and a half, but
Oh, yeah.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it's been a long time, and I'd love to go back.
Cyber, do you have any connections with Japan? Or?
So John and I went to college at Georgia Tech, and we've got several friends who decided to go there. And so, through the JET program or translation jobs for video games, mobile games, that type of thing. So, a friend of ours, another John, his name is Disco Man, which we actually interviewed on the podcast previously. He's here visiting the States, but he's going back to Japan in a few weeks, and I believe he landed a translation gig with Square Enix. He's doing all sorts of stuff. So,
Wow, nice.
yeah, so he's
Nice.
pretty
Yeah.
busy. So, like, most of my connection, like my wife is Taiwanese, so the one time that I went to Japan was a connection flight to Taiwan from Japan.
Right.
I haven't visited proper, but I intend to one of these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, I guess I should ask the question. So, what drew you to living to Japan in the first place?
I had a girlfriend in Australia who really wanted to visit Japan, and I was a professional drummer in those days, and I could feel that my band had kind of peaked, and it was starting to get less popular. And I thought, okay, I'll go and have a look. Go for 6 months of adventure, and then either maybe move on to England, I thought, or maybe come back to Australia. I wasn't sure, but anyway, at the end of 1 year, she had left. She didn't like it, and she went on to England, and I decided to stay. And because after about a year, I'd figured out how to, make money and be able to afford to stay there, and got a band going and so forth. So yeah, to answer your question, I'd say initially was just adventure, and then I would say for 20 years, every single year I said, okay, I'm going back next year, and just never happened.
So did
I'm
you go
probably
to,
still the same.
well,
I'm
I
probably
was
still the
I was
same.
gonna say, like, did you know Japanese before you came, or did you learn? Oh wow, that's impressive.
No, not at all. I remember getting off the plane at Narita Airport with a little book, a Japanese book, and sumimasen, which means excuse me, and that was it.
Wow.
That is amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get by with you can get by with gestures. It's amazing what you can do with gestures and one word. Food, drink, bus.
Right, yeah, my friend tells me that a lot of the menus you can just point at a food menu and they'll know exactly what you want to get. So
a lot of restaurants luckily have plastic food models out the front too, which is pretty interesting. You can in a pinch you can get the waitress to come out and just point to what you want. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that helps.
All right, great. Well, I guess at this point we can move into the Konami question. So,
Yep.
I know it's been a while, but can you recount specifically how you started working with Konami?
Yeah, it's no great mystery. I wish there was some kind of mystical answer to this, but it's basically I got a call from an booking agent, and just said, and I didn't know it was Konami, and I didn't really know what it was for. Just I was doing studio jobs, and as I still do, and they just said, "What's your availability?" Next Monday, 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock or something, and that was basically it. Just a call from an agent.
Was it an agent that you had worked with previously? Okay.
Yeah, to be honest, I can't even remember which agent it was, but because I work with quite a few,
sure.
And I do remember actually. Yeah. So sorry, what was your question?
I said, well, essentially, like, was it an agent that you had worked with previously, or was it like someone contacting you from them specifically? Like maybe they'd seen your
No. Actually, yeah, it was just someone I'd worked with before, and I don't think they knew me. I don't. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they knew me or not. But they just asked if I could come in and do something.
So with that particular agent that you worked with, were you well known for making covers, performing covers, or something like that, or like what was your repertoire at that time?
Yeah, well, I was fairly reasonably known for singing on commercials, singing TV commercials, and I also had my band, the Hitmen. I should explain, the Hitmen is basically a corporate event covers band. We call ourselves a greatest hits band. So yeah, I mean, I do original music here and there, but with the Hitmen is yeah, I think in the States you'd call it a corporate
Sure.
event band. Yeah. Yeah, I this agent knew me from the Hitmen, and I think I was relatively known for TV commercials at that stage. So they probably, the agent, if they didn't ask for me specifically, Konami, probably this agent thought, well, you know, they might have said we need someone to sing a rock song or something.
Sure.
This agent might have, he may have presented me and someone else, I'm not sure, or it might have been just me, or maybe they asked for me, which would be nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. So I don't really know the background.
I see. Well, and that's fair. I mean, it seems like that seems to be the case for these types of gigs. But
yeah,
can you recall what your first contribution was to Konami back then?
I actually honestly can't, but I did like a lot of stuff for them. And see, for me, the problem is it gets a little bit blurred because that was a fairly busy time. And I was also doing a lot of other recordings for Avex Tracks. I'm not sure if you've, they're were or are, I'm not sure, a big dance music company with a lot of idol bands and
I believe it's were now. I don't think they are.
Yeah, they're not around. During the time they would have been deeply entrenched in the para craze. I'm not sure if you part of that.
Well, I did a lot of para recordings.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well, that is cool.
Yeah. That was actually I was heavily into that for a while. I was called Brad King.
Oh man!
They called me Brad King for some reason. I don't know why. I'd get the CDs, like a sample sent to me, and on the back it'd say Brad King, Brad King. I think, oh, that's me.
I have some more homework to do. It sounds like.
Yeah, well, actually, when I was thinking about after you contacted me, I had a look on. I had a look in my closet. And I've got some of the CDs there. I looked on YouTube, and I couldn't really see much of that. I guess it was a little bit pre-internet, maybe. I don't know. But I guess we're talking about late 90s, early 2000s.
Right, yeah. It would have been around that time period.
Yeah. But I remember doing a lot of one was called, one that I wrote was called Dancing with the Devil. That was one of the para. It was a bit of a hit, I think, because amazingly, I still get tiny little royalties from it.
They send you the check in the mail, a couple cents on it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, same sort of system. I used to contribute the lyrics back then a lot, and occasionally the whole song. But but for those dance CDs, and there was lots para Eurobeat, or there was Avex tracks had, what did they have? Gaia Rhythm, and
Right.
I think they even had Bass Mania. Para Eurobeat, yeah, those kind of things.
Yeah, those compilations were a dime a dozen back then, and
that's right.
We actually got friends who are crazily into, like, even nowadays, into Para. Bill Shillito, he goes by DM Ashura, and he also worked with Konami, contributing a couple songs, and I think he did some work with the Andamiro, the Pump It Up people. Are you familiar with Pump It Up? It's the.
I think I was involved in that too.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Well, that was cover CDs, dance covers, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, Pump It Up was a Korean dance game. It was their version of Dance Dance Revolution. Made by a company called Andamiro in Korea.
Yeah.
They're still around to this day as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but in my closet there is a CD that I sang on called "Pump It Up," and "Dance Dance Revolution" I sang on as well. I remember. Yeah,
Crash, I believe.
Well, yeah. Well, we have a question about Crash, so
we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Yep.
Okay, well, great. That learned some things now. So okay, well then I mean it sounds like it was all a blur. So. I guess asking the question, what was it like working on rhythm game compositions? Like this came from we asked some people ahead of time for some questions that they wanted to ask you, so this is one of their questions. What was it like working on a rhythm game composition? And then also, how did you work around the constraints of a game-sized song to deliver your vision accurately?
Yeah. Well, I really liked it that whole time because it was funny the way they were pumping out music back then. It was really no nonsense, and I really liked working with all these producers because their ears were so good. You know, they'd give you good direction. They'd say, you know, this note was flat. Sometimes it drove you crazy because they were so anal about it, but they'd give you good direction, and pretty much you wouldn't be hanging around for hours and hours. You know, you'd go in and you'd prepare at home and practice at home, and go in and usually you were done within an hour or two.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I really liked it, and before that I hadn't been that much into dance music as such. I mean, I liked it, but I like all music really. I got a real new appreciation, especially doing that para stuff and the Eurobeat, and then coming into the games with the Dance Mania and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started to really like it, and I guess I didn't do so much back then, but since I do a lot of jobs where I have to rap and so forth, so it got me into that as well. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And how was it with the constraints? Yeah, I actually liked it because you could be short and concise, and you had to get your message across quickly. Mm. Also, it's kind of like when you do a show. If you can do a short show, you can kind of really go for it. There's no filler kind of thing. So I found it pretty good, actually.
So like it sounds like they gave you a good sense of direction, and you were able to, like, you just get to the point, you get it done, and then you can call it a day. It sounds like. Yeah.
And in the cases where it wasn't my song or my lyrics, you could just come in and hit it hard with high energy for the short time. You know, right. you weren't thinking about like, here I've got to be at medium, and then I've got to bring it down to low tension down here, and then after the solo I've got to bring it right up. It was kind of, you could just come in and hit it hard from the start to the end.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess since we're talking about it, and it probably varies from song to song, but were you tasked with writing a lot of these lyrics, or were you simply asked to to sing what they gave you. Because I always find it's kind of interesting that sometimes there's lyrics that sort of sound, let's say, questionable. Maybe not like they were written by a native English speaker, but obviously, like, you might be the person.
Yeah, they were mine.
So I mean, like, what's that process like? That's kind of what I'm interested in.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I would say probably 60% of the time I was just tasked with singing. So they would give me the lyrics. And I got to say, sometimes my heart sank because it was like, oh, man, And sometimes the way, I could talk for hours about this, the way if a Japanese or a non-native speaker wrote the lyrics, they would want you to sing it a really weird way,
right.
Where you might say, I don't know, like, please, Mr. Postman, or something like that. They'd say, please, Mr. Postman, or just the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. And, it was quite hard. Sometimes you'd be thinking, oh, man, you have to bite your lip and bite your tongue sometimes. But, and then, probably the other 40%, I guess, but it'd be either 50-50 or maybe 40%. I probably wrote the words, or sometimes I wrote the whole song and just sold a song to them. Songs that I wrote completely and then sold to them that come to mind are maybe Island in the Sun.
Right.
Well, there seems to be a whole lot going on. I'm confident not too much will go wrong, yeah. But my preferred state is on the beach. You're lying, looking back at life and sailing out of reach. We're lying on an island in the sun. Yeah, lying on an island in the sun. So happy in my fool's paradise. Well, I'm content to sit here and just let life pass me by.
That was completely mine. And Summer Sun, I think.
Yes.
That was.
Did I ever tell you how I lost my way but then got found? How I thought I never need you. All I cared about was me. Seemed like so long ago. Something I did not know, but you kept on fire burning like the summer sun. One fine day.
Were there some others? Used to Rock and Roll, I wrote the lyrics. I'm sure there's many others that that escape me right now. But Fiesta, that was another one, but I'm not sure whether that was Konami or that was in the Para. Because at one stage too, they had me writing, Avex Tracks had me writing lyrics for other singers as well. So there'd be female singers, or mostly female singers for dance music. And I wrote quite a lot of lyrics there for them at one stage too. In fact, it's a really funny story. At one stage with Avex Tracks, for one particular CD, they wanted really racy or, sexual connotations in the lyrics. And they played me a sample of a song called Billy Wear a Billy or something like that.
And Willie Wear a Billy.
Yeah.
Erotic song.
Yeah.
Band is erotic.
That's right. And then they played me that, and they said, we want like this, but even raunchier lyrics. And so me and my friend, it was so funny. We were playing on a dinner cruise each night that goes around Tokyo Bay, like on a big ship with, multiple floors. And so in our break time, I was throwing things off to him, like throwing ideas out. And it was so funny. It was like we had these crazy funny things. We called it the smorgasbord of life. A taco and a piece of wiener, and then we were saying things like, think about my body getting tenser. Think I need a trip to the cream dispenser, and and it was just so funny. Like, we're talking about like it's a buffet, like a smorgasbord, a buffet,
right.
and all these sexual things. Talking about oysters and all kinds of stuff. And anyway. So I thought it was a masterpiece, and me and my friend were just cracking up. And when I took it into the studio guys, they read it and listened to me sing it, and they said, "Oh, it's perfect! It's perfect." They were cracking up too. They said it's awesome, but then it had to be sung by an African American woman came in to sing it. It wasn't going to be me singing it. And she hit the roof. She refused. She said, "This is disgusting. I'm not going to sing that." and then I got a call from her agent, and I don't know. So we had to kind of change it round to the smorgasbord of life. Food that could not be finer, and it was a little bit sad. It took all the edge off it, I thought. But anyway, it was just a funny story because I remember thinking, like, really, can we really put this out? But yeah.
I hope I'm not interrupting the flow then, because you mentioned that cruise, and I know we have a question later on about, is that still a thing?
Yeah, it was really full on for a while. We used to do it just about every night, and it went for a couple of hours. Oh, wow. And it was kind of good fun, actually. People had come on. We'd put on, like a 10-minute show in each room. Yeah, it was great. And then it left me free to do studio stuff during the day. But it's kind of dwindled now. Tokyo's in a bit of a recession, I guess, or it has been for a few years. Not a great financial situation here these days. But, I mean, having said that, it's still one of the biggest markets in the world, I guess. So these days, I do it a little bit differently. We do it like in the public holidays. I'll do it with a band, or there's an old Japanese band, a jazz band that I sometimes sing with, called the Onishi Band. And they've been doing these cruises for years and years and years. So we just do it like in the New Year's, or in the summer holidays, or maybe around Christmas or special events. We do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we had a friend that actually discovered the Brad Holmes Dinner Cruise a couple of years back, and we were wondering what that could possibly even be like. Because that sounds like something, if we were to ever to visit, we would go.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's only on occasionally these days, and I've got to say I don't really run it or anything. They just employ me to, like, they'll put me on the poster and stuff.
Your face is very prominently featured. yeah,
but it's not my. Sad to say, it's not my initiative. Yeah. Yeah, but I've got to say it's great fun though. Going out on a big ship, sailing around the harbour, and you see the city lights and the Rainbow Bridge and stuff. Yeah, it's nice. It makes you feel good.
Yeah, it sounds like a great time. I guess if I ever plan a trip to Japan, we need to go, John. Alrighty. Well, let me. We meandered a bit, but that's okay because this is the kind of things that we were hoping for.
Yeah.
So back to lyricists. Are you familiar with the lyricist Heaven? The name Heaven as a lyricist? Apparently, they worked with Izumi on writing some of the later songs that you provided for GuitarFreaks and Drummania, and we were wondering if you had any information on them.
Do you know which songs for Not So Bad? Would that be one of them?
Let me see. Not So Bad was reportedly the credit is given to Heaven for that one. also there was another one, After a Hard Day. Apparently, was written by them, but. Like, there's not a whole lot of information online that I could find. I wasn't sure if you knew anything that you could share.
Yeah, that was someone in Izumi's family. To be honest, they weren't native lyrics, so it was a bit of a stretch sometimes, I thought, but not that bad, not as bad as some.
Yeah, I mean, those. I mean, if you had told me that they were non-native, I wouldn't have known, because they seem fairly, comprehensible and all that.
Yeah, well, we had to. Yeah, we had to. Those particular ones are pretty good, actually, and we did work together on them a little bit. We maybe brushed them up a little bit, and just in the way they were requested to be sung was a bit weird sometimes. So we sort of negotiated a bit. Well, could I sing it like this? And could I put in "and the" or something like that?
Sure.
And yeah.
Okay.
So with pretty good results, I think. Those songs are not so bad.
Right. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, not to be insulting, but Crash, you're well known for that.
I'm gonna go my way! Go and be your mother! Let's go! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Break the dollar, get out of here. Come with me now.
I guess it premiered on Dancing Stage Euromix, and then eventually they put it over on DDR Extreme. Many people are wondering what was the inspiration for that song in particular, and the lyrics and all that. Can you?
Well, I had nothing to do with writing that song.
I mean, it seems fairly obvious, but.
And the inspiration for that particular song was to get paid. No, to be honest, that I didn't know much at all about that song, and I'd completely forgotten about it until you brought it to my attention the other day, and I listened back to it, and God, it sounds out of tune to me. I'm not sure if I ever actually heard the finished product, because I remember when I sang that song, it sounded great in the studio, and it was in tune, and the only thing I can think of that may have happened is I also did for another company. I'm not sure if it was Pioneer. I used to do a lot for Pioneer as well, when they were a CD making force, and I did this punk album called the Sex Machine Guns.
Yeah, so the Sex Machine Guns, the band Sex Machine Guns, like the Family Rasuboma and Mikan Nuita, them?
Yeah, I'm not sure of those names, but I was the singer of the Sex Machine Guns, and we did well. Unless there's another one around.
Maybe there was.
Wait a minute. There's a Japanese band called the Sex Machine Guns.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I guess they took the name from our original CD,
That's awesome.
which was a CD of covers and originals, but it was punk, really punk, and that was really weird because they told me to sing out of tune and sing rough, and because it was punk, and sometimes they'd say no, it sounds too smooth, so sing it out of tune, and so against my better judgment. I did sometimes. And but the only thing that occurred to me when I was listening to Crash, I was thinking, wait a minute, did they take my vocal from one of those punk recordings and put it onto a dance track or something? Or I don't know. I'm at a loss when I listen to that. I think, oh my goodness, like what happened?
Yeah.
So did you work with Naoki directly at that? Like, did you?
Yeah, I think I remember him. But and I, like you say, it's a bit unclear because it was a long time ago. And a lot of these songs, you got to understand too. I'd just go in. They'd say hi, hi, and straight into the booth. And have you practiced the song? Yep. And I'd sing it and then leave. And quite often, I think intentionally, they didn't really tell me what it was for, or and then quite often afterwards, I'd get a CD in the post, and I'd think, oh, okay, that's what it was for, because a lot of the time they were kind of not obsessed, but they were very concerned with secrecy or keeping it private, and
Sure.
I guess there were a lot of rival games and CDs and so forth going on at the time. So,
yeah,
and I guess I wasn't the only singer. There were a lot of singers, so I guess they just didn't want everyone talking to everyone. And I guess they probably thought, yeah, well, he's singing for us, and he's probably singing for them as well. And yeah, so a lot of the time I wasn't really sure what it was for. So yeah, when I worked with Naoki, it was just like another song, and I think it's going to be on a game, but the game's not out yet, and it hasn't even been released. And so that was another thing too. In the order, the timeline, sometimes they'd make a song, and then they might build that might influence the game or something. So they might even have a song before the game, perhaps. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we've heard stories where, like, oftentimes some artists will have songs on their archives, and then they'll surprise us years later. That actually happened very recently on Poppin' Music with who was it? The
I think it was Nagureo, right?
The percussive track. So there's a series of songs.
No. Percussive. That was DJ Simon, yeah.
DJ Simon, and so he apparently he was asked about it on Twitter, and oh yeah, you made this new song for this game that was just come out. It's Poppin' Music. I'm sure you've heard of Poppin' Music. And
yeah.
And then his response was something to the effect of, "Oh, I wrote that song years ago." Like, because people were under the impression that he wrote it specifically for them, but it actually was sitting in the can from so many years ago. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring that up, the timeline.
Yeah, and I think we always just signed contracts that it was a buyout, so they could do with it what they want for eternity. So I just can't for the life of me understand what happened with Crash. Like it's barely listenable now to me personally. I'm sure some people like it, but yeah, I don't know whether because that happens. Your voice or your recording or whatever will be put onto another track or moved around, or they can put effects on it. They can change the pitch. And it sounds to me, I don't know, because I do remember I actually liked the song when I was practicing it at home,
right.
and I made a couple of minor changes to the lyrics, I think, to make it fit better. And I remember when we recorded, Naoki was happy, very happy, and I had a good feeling leaving the studio, thinking, "Wow, that's an exciting track." And then I listened back to it the other day, and I thought, "What happened?" And it really sounds like, and also I got to say, I was listening, and the harmonies that are on it are not me. And to me, the harmonies sound a little bit out too, and. Yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery.
It's notorious. Just so you know, it's somewhat well known as being one of those songs, and so people were just curious about what happened there. I guess would be the diplomatic way to put it.
My answer to what happened is I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, but it really does sound to me like either in the mix down for some unknown reason, either it's been because I remember when I recorded it, it was a really rocking kind of track,
Sure.
and it sounded great when the playback. I thought, wow, that's really sounds great, and that's not the case now. I can either one of two options. Maybe they took that track and put it onto another different track, and if it was one of those punk recordings, it's conceivable that that was done with real guitars.
Right. Okay.
So the tuning may, like, depending on how they tuned their guitars, that's what I would have sung to. And then now, if you take that over and put it to something that's done with keyboards that are not tunable, it may have just been slightly out, and somehow it just got through. But that seems, I don't know, seems weird. Or the other one is that intentionally they tried to make it sound live or something, so they tried to, slightly put it out of tune or something. I really don't know.
I guess we'll never know.
No, we'll never know.
Awesome. So we mentioned Island in the Sun, and it sounds like that was something that you had previously recorded, and then you provided to Konami the game version, I guess you could call it. Was that something that you offered to them, or did they specifically ask you for a composition and you said, "Oh, I've got this recording"? And
that's a great question, and I'm trying to remember. No, I think they were. Yeah, they said, "Do you have any songs that you'd like to put forward?" And I think I put forward maybe 3 songs, and they picked that one, and then because I had already recorded it for my original CD, so they said we'd like to re-record it. And actually, funnily enough, I had already used that song for a TV commercial. That had been a TV commercial for Mitsui Homes or something, like a real estate company.
Oh, interesting.
And that was a few years before. And so then, for Konami, we went in and re-recorded Island in the Sun. Yeah, it was really cool. They were asking me what the chords were, and we kind of collaborated on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was very satisfying. Yeah, I should mention too, Winning 11, the soccer game, is that PlayStation?
PlayStation 2. Well, PlayStation 2, and it's a running series. And we actually we were going to ask you about the football song.
Right, yeah.
We're gonna play football, soccer, football, soccer, football, soccer, all around the world. Football, soccer, football, soccer, football, soccer, the greatest game of all.
Now that was another one of my kind of favorites. I mean, it's not my favorite song, but that was a similar sort of case. They were looking. It was back in the early versions of the game, I think.
Mm-hmm. I believe it was 2008. I think it was the version. Yeah. World Soccer Winning 11 2008.
Right. Yeah. So that was a similar kind of thing. They were looking for songs, and I think I put in. I presented maybe 2 or 3 songs, and they picked that one. Yeah, I think I gave them a rough demo of it, a roughish demo, and they said, "Okay, can you record it to CD quality, and we'll buy it outright." Awesome. And yeah, but that was pretty fun. Like, it was a pretty silly song.
Yeah,
but
I was going to ask about the lyrics, because it sounds like you're chastising the people when they say football, and you respond angrily, "Soccer."
Yeah.
What was the thought process there? I'm just curious.
Well, I was just trying to make a fun song, and then I envisaged, I've seen on TV, they've got in England with the soccer crowds, they have someone down there with a megaphone or a bullhorn going, and I thought it was like the crowd's going, "We're going to play football," and this guy's saying, "Soccer," because I don't know, at that stage. In Japan, Japan had just kind of got into the World Cup, or was getting really serious about the World Cup of soccer and stuff. And no one, there was this whole argument: is it football or is it soccer? And like some countries call it soccer, some countries call it football. So right. I just thought have some fun with that. Like the crowd saying, "We're going to play football," and this guy saying, "No, it's soccer." Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, that clears up my question. John.
Yeah, well, I think even when we were, presenting the songs and stuff, they were saying, the Japanese people were saying we're not sure, if we should call it soccer or football or whatever. Right. So yeah, I think that was going around in my brain.
You split the difference, basically.
Yeah, split the difference exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. John has a few questions for you. So.
Yeah. Sure. So once you started getting all of your songs into the games, did you ever try and play any of GuitarFreaks and drummania in the arcade or anything like that?
Yeah, a little bit. It was funny. I'm not sure if it was Dance Mania or whether it was one of the AVEX things or something, but there was we tried one time to do the dance thing. I guess. Do you think that was Konami? I'm not sure,
so but they have a Dance Maniacs, which has sensors above and below, and then they did.
That's the one.
Is that Dance Maniacs?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So we tried that one time with me and a couple of friends, and that was pretty funny. And then they had I think I did Used to Rock and Roll one time. They had drums in the
drummania. Yeah.
Drummania. I don't think I tried the GuitarFreaks one, but I definitely saw it around the game arcades and stuff. Yeah, it's also funny. There's a big amusement park, not amusement park, amusement center, game center called Adores, Adores. That's near Shinagawa, and I did the welcome voice for that, like, hello and welcome to Adores. And, and so we've been there a couple of times, and it's funny, you walk in the door and there's my voice saying hello. And
it's the voice of
pretty
God.
Funny. Yeah. And then there's a couple of games in there that, Pirates, I think, is one of the games. And I did the theme song for that. And so when the game, like it's a pirate ship or something, so when the people are on the attraction, my song is singing and stuff. So yeah, it's all good fun. It's all nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So were there any artists that were with Konami that you wanted to work with, or were you just sort of kind of aloof from all of that?
Well, not aloof. Are you talking about like on the Japanese production side, or other singers, or
singers, or the composers, or
I got to say honestly, I was kind of like a hired gun. Yeah, and like I said before, I think they didn't like to tell, anything really, as little as possible. So I didn't really, but I did particularly enjoy working with Izu. We always had a really good rapport, and he was really open to any of my ideas. His wife, I think, may have been a singing teacher, and she was nice too. I mean, a couple of his songs were super high key, and I remember one day I was kind of struggling because it had been a hard week and hard week of gigs, and she gave me some little tip to keep your chin down or something like that. I remember it kind of worked, and I thought, oh well, that's cool. Oh, wow. So the whole Izumi family.
Yeah, he seems to get around. Like he did a track with Marty Friedman of Megadeth. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but he has a whole series of Daydream songs, Model DD 1, 2, 3, and so I think Model DD 8 was the one where he collaborated with Marty Friedman. And he seems to be on good terms with people he works with. So it's interesting. It's interesting that you would say that you also had good rapport with him.
Yeah, no, he was a very open guy, and another really good guy that I worked with was Funagisawa, Tanagisawa. I'm not sure, but I did a tour with this big rock star here called Yazawa, Ekichi Yazawa. He's like the Bruce Springsteen of Japan. He's been famous for years, and I did a tour in his back band, and there was this guitarist called Fumi Yanagisawa, yeah, and he had actually been in the touring band for Puffy Ami Yumi. I don't know if you
yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, he was another guy, and I think we collaborated a little bit, but yeah. Anyway, back to the question. There wasn't really. I didn't really know so much about who was producing this or whatever. It was pretty much like if I got the call, I'd come in and I'd do my best, and then sort of move on, and then sometimes a month or two later I'd get something in the post like a sample, or sometimes I'd hear, because you got to remember too, I was doing quite a lot of TV commercials, so just keeping track of, it's not like it was an avalanche of jobs or anything like that. I wish it was. but yeah, there was just kind of things going on. And so it was hard enough to keep track of the TV commercials. And then, I'm on that game over there. Oh, cool. Oh, and then here's a CD of this. And, if I had to do it all again, I'd probably keep it all. I'd keep on top of it more. I'd keep some sort of filing system or something. But, yeah.
So, I think you've probably already answered this question, but just to be sure, did you have any input on any of the videos that played during the songs in the games, or it seems like you were just completely in and out on the music and you didn't really? But
yeah, they didn't really. It's funny, they were pretty compartmentalized. They'd have the video people working there and the sound people working over here, and from my point of view, I didn't see much interaction. So I occasionally I'd see something in the studio they'd have it going, and they'd be matching it up, the sound with the visuals,
the sound with the video.
Yeah. So that was fun, but they seem to be different floors in the Konami building.
Sure.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
So this year has actually been the 20th anniversary of GuitarFreaks and Drummania, and Konami has been celebrating it in their latest game. They've had a big event where they've been bringing, and I don't know if they, to the point earlier about the DJ Simon song that sort of came from the archives. I'm not sure if these are new songs that they just got, or these are things that have been sitting around the archives, but they've been getting some older artists, new songs from older artists to come up. Did they approach you at all for any of that, or no?
No. So I'm not sure, but it makes me think I better check it out and see if there's any of my old stuff floating around there. But I'll check that out. But I got a feeling maybe those agents that I was working with back then, one unfortunately passed away, and then another one has kind of slightly moved out of the business. So and also I think maybe Izumi and that whole team may have moved on. I'm not sure.
Izumi is still there. Surprisingly, right. He's still working and still pumping out tracks for Konami and GuitarFreaks and Drummania every game. Wow. He's like about the only one. Most people have moved on, but Izumi's still there.
Yeah. No, well sadly, I haven't heard anything. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we need to petition Konami and ask Izumi to do another collab with you.
Yeah, love to. Yeah.
Well, I guess on the topic of Izumi, a lot of people were wondering this: is Used to Rock and Roll autobiographical?
Long ago I had a teenage rock band, back in the middle of high school. We had the power, we were rocking hard, and the ladies thought we were so cool. Times were tough, but school bell rang, raced down to the steel mill. Right about time to play guitar. We used to rock and roll all night long, party animals all night long. Now we sing the blues all day long, following the rules all day long. The rock and roll gates of high school used to rock and roll all night long.
Yeah, it's a good question. No, because I even now I usually rock and roll all night long. Not used to it. No, I still yeah, I'm still
Still rocking.
yeah, because that song's all about someone who now works in an office or something and
Sure.
but used to rock. But no, I still rock as much as possible.
An inspiration to us all.
Nice to hear.
Yeah,
But,
it's easily our favorite song. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, I'd say that and Island in the Sun are particular favourites of mine. But yeah, I like use of rock and roll too, and that was they kind of gave me a theme. They said, "Can you make it sort of about guitars? We want it something about guitars, and maybe you can be." I said, "Can you give me any more guidance on that?" And I said, "Guitars are pretty broad." And they said, "Oh, maybe think about your life and bring guitars into it, or something like that." And so yeah, I went with it. And yeah, for that particular one, I felt like it clicked. It was I had this fictional character that used to work in the steel and I channeled all my Bruce Springsteen.
Right.
But yeah, no, I like that song too. Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess what we'll do is we'll try to, because I know we're running short on time here. I've got a few questions. Let Me Go. Let Me Go, I believe, was your final song, your final contribution. To
I guess.
GuitarFreaks.
Yeah.
And I think Thomas Howard is credited as writing the lyrics. Was that meant to be a collaboration, or was he supposed to sing it and maybe you took the role, or do you remember how that worked out?
Sorry to say, I've got no idea. I don't know who Thomas Howard is, and we didn't sort of work together. Yeah, I'm not sure what the backstory is. Again, it was pretty much like I didn't know it was going to be, the last one, or I didn't know, what game it was going to be for, or anything. It was just because like I mentioned before, sometimes you'd record songs that would just vanish into the ether, like they might not be used, or they might have been used for something that I never became aware of. So yeah, we didn't collaborate. I had no idea of the background on that. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah. Just for reference, Thomas Howard he's probably as prolific as Brad in the series, right? Like he's made a bunch of songs. I mean, John would know more.
Yeah, he's had a lot of contributions. He's one of the artists that they did bring back for the event this year. Yeah, he has quite a few songs. I think he also lives. Does he also live in Japan?
Yeah,
I think he also lives in Japan.
He does the gig thing as well. He does performances publicly. If you ever get the chance, Thomas Howard.
Yeah.
Thomas Howard Lichtenstein, I believe, is his full name.
Oh, right.
THL.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That I'll check him out. I might know the guy, and it's a different name.
It's just been years, right?
Well, I might know him as a different name, under a different name.
Oh, that's possible.
Because a lot of these people use different names, or a lot of times the company. Like I was, Brad Holmes, Brad King, Mr. Brian, and they weren't my choices.
Brian?
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think you just answered it. They weren't your choices. You said.
No, I didn't even know about it. I think they just did it for variety, or what. I don't know, but I didn't really mind. Yeah.
Well, say Konami has a reputation for putting aliases to well-known contributors, and Naoki was probably by far the most prolific at the time, where he was responsible for probably 70% of the DDR soundtrack, but like over all of these different names. So it doesn't surprise me that you're telling me this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess to wrap up the Konami questions, does it feel like, or rather, how does it feel to have a legacy with Konami and the Bemani series of games?
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, I got to say, I don't really think about it very often, but like when it comes up, like it has done now, yeah, it feels great. And I went back and looked through, and there are a whole bunch of songs I'd forgotten about, and there's still a lot that, you know, especially from the dance, the para, like for Pioneer and Avex Tracks and stuff. There's a bunch through there, and I wrote a lot of lyrics for a lot of songs, and yeah, I wish I could kind of find them, but I got to look in my closet. There's a whole bunch of dance CDs, omnibus CDs in there, and you know, yeah, awesome. when I get time. But yeah, I do like it. It's great. Thanks to the internet for them still being out there, right?
Keeping it alive. That's great.
Yep. Yeah.
So I guess we'll go ahead and segue a bit into your other musical projects and things like that. We just have a few questions. So we know that you're with the Hitmen, but is that a specific group of people, or is it sort of like a sessioning band where people just come and go? How does that work?
Well, it's my band, and I kind of co-started it years and years ago, and then people have come and gone in the meantime. And as much as possible, I keep it. I'd love to have the same lineup all the time.
Sure.
But because it's got to be, you know, it's a lot of criteria. It's got to be foreigners, and that's not my choice. You know, the companies that book us generally say they want foreigners only, just for the entertainment value, I think. Because otherwise there's a myriad of good Japanese bands around too. Right. So yeah, they've got to be foreign. They've got to be professional level. They've got to be living in Tokyo. They've got to have gear. I mean, it's a lot of boxes to tick. So yeah, so wherever possible, it's the same guys. But then sometimes someone won't be available, so we'll have a sub. So we've got sort of a little group of people that know the songs and know the deal and can jump in.
I feel like I saw a photo with one of your sons. Does he sub in sometimes as well?
Yeah. Okay. My sons are all in Australia at the moment going to school, but yeah, when they were here last year, they were quite often doing Hitmen gigs as well, which was great.
I guess we should mention them. So is the name of their band j.a.b, or do you pronounce it j.a.b, or I'm assuming that's the intent, but
yeah. Well, I call it j.a.b, but my son always corrects me and says no, it's j.a.b. So I don't know. But I always thought it was pretty cool. It's their initial, Jackie, Angus, Bob, and also the j.a.b. You know, the short, sharp burst of music. Yeah.
They perform like surf type music, surf rock, but then they also have other songs as well. Australia, do you wanna do it again? Swimming late, I'll never forget. Running down.
Yeah, and they've done a few singing jobs over the years when they were kids in Tokyo, or narration or singing. Mm-hmm. They sang on. There's a big hit over here from a band called News, I think, and I think it was Seven Colors was the song, but they sang backup vocals on it, and
oh, that's great.
And yeah, just over the years they've done a few funny little odd things.
Okay.
But yeah, j.a.b, yeah, they're playing in Australia now, here and there, and they write songs, and if you want to look them up on YouTube, I think it's j.a.b Band Tokyo. We'll find them on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. Yeah, j.a.b band Tokyo, and they've got a couple of good songs written by them, the three boys. One's called Australia, one's called Meant to Be, and the videos are on YouTube. Some of the videos show them kind of walking around Tokyo and stuff. So
I looked up the Australia video from your website actually.
Right, cool.
It's pretty neat.
Cool. Thanks.
Let's see. Are you familiar with Stephen McKnight?
Yeah.
So I saw you mentioned him in the credits of one of your songs. And as you may or may not know, he actually provided a bunch of songs to Konami as well, either singing and
Absolutely.
all that. So how familiar are you with each other, and do you still keep in touch?
We're Facebook friends, but we don't really keep in touch that much just because of, for no reason in particular, just he's in the States now. But he played a few gigs with the Hitmen, funnily enough, years ago. Oh. And we used to bump into each other. I'd be going into the studio, he'd be coming out, or vice versa. And he's a great singer and guitarist. And he actually, we did a Hitmen CD, and we recorded it in his home studio, which was called Thermal Productions.
Right. Yep.
When I say home studio, it was actually fairly big home studio, and we produced it at his studio in Tokyo. But I believe he's got that studio now in the States somewhere.
In Philadelphia, I think, if my sources are correct.
Yeah. So he's I was going to say he's a good friend, but I can't really say that because we're not really in touch that much. But he's a good guy. He's a friend. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Great. Let's see. I only have a few more questions here as we're wrapping up. Well, I think we've talked about how the process of making songs works. I was going to bring up Wild Riders because that's how initially we started getting in contact. I was curious and I asked you the question. You said, "Oh yeah, I did that song. I completely forgot that I did it."
Yeah.
Jump just before the orange line. Red. Oh yeah. Slide just before the green line. Go. Streets all day and through the night. Go straight.
And so, if you want to maybe talk a bit about that, if you remember anything about it, it's fine if you don't, though. But
I actually don't. But like when you alerted me to it, I listened to it and I thought, yeah, that's right. I remember that, but I don't remember anything about it. And because, like I said before, we recorded quite a few songs that nothing happened with. Also, with the TV commercials, we would go in and we would record sometimes like 5 different versions of something, and then none of those would go to air, or one of them would be picked and go to air, and then I'd go somewhere the next day and do 5 versions of something else. And and I'm notorious for, like, I sang on a McDonald's commercial just the other night, yesterday, the day before, and just before we came to Nagasaki, and the very next morning, the guys on the plane were saying, "So what did you sing?" And I was thinking, I don't know, I forget. Like, it's funny, it's so intense. You go to bed and you can't get it out of your head, but then you wake up the next morning and it's gone. So, I should be a little bit clearer on all this stuff. But that Wild Rider, I just remember recording it, I think. And
it exists, so it came from somewhere.
Yeah, but some of the others, I definitely remember the Island in the Sun recording. Sure. I remember that, and Used to Rock and Roll. I remember that session very well, and that Not So Bad, and some of the others.
Great.
And Yeah, I definitely remember that great Guitardo Live concert that we did.
2008.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Actually, the video, I got it from John, so you should say that the video that I sent you was actually from his personal collection.
Yeah, thanks, John.
I dusted off my DVD.
Nice. Cheers, thanks for that.
So I've got one off the wall question, which I recently found out about this. You apparently were the singing voice of Dr. Peace from No More Heroes. Do you recall this at all?
I see no more when the wind blows a virgin child's gone sing a song, such a pretty melody never heard before. No more lullabies, the virgin just lost them.
Now that you say that, Dr. Peace, No More Heroes, but I don't recall what any other details.
I believe the song was called. The song, it was very interesting. Hold on, let me look it up real quick.
Sorry, what was Dr. Peace and No More Heroes?
So Dr. Peace is a character in No More Heroes. He has like a revolver, and he has a mustache. And in the video game, when you walk, you're the main character, obviously, and you walk into this baseball stadium. The character immediately starts to sing this grandiose song about his daughter. The voice actor is actually credited as somebody else. The Virgin Child makes her wish without feeling anything is the title of the song. Is that ringing any bells?
Yeah, it is. Dr. Peace, No More Heroes is ringing a big bell for me.
You were the singing voice, but you weren't the voice actor. And I remember hearing this when I was younger and thinking, "Oh, that sounds familiar." But then when the voice actor started speaking, it's like, "Oh, it's not. Clearly, it can't be Brad because it doesn't sound like him." But like, I guess they did that purposely because you were the singer of this song. Anyway, my question is: Did you remember this session at all? Do you remember working with Goichi Suda on this particular project?
Yeah, absolutely. That I did that for sure. Actually, that doesn't seem that long ago. When was this?
So. Yeah, No More Heroes was a relatively recent. I mean, the original game was released on the Wii, the Nintendo Wii, and then they did a remaster for the PlayStation 3. So the Wii version came out in 2007, I believe, and then they made a PlayStation upgrade. You know, they made the graphics look better a couple of years after that.
Yeah, I remember this session only because they told me to sing it like an old vampire. And so maybe they hadn't conceptualized it fully at that point. I'm not sure, but they gave me they're saying just sing it like an old sort of shaky vampire, looking back on life or something like that. I remember, and so I put on that silly like that kind of voice. Yeah, but I remember it well now. Yeah. Man, I'd forgotten all about that.
It's just one. It's like you said. It's just one of those things where you've got so many projects under your belt. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's great. That's interesting. And another one I did like that was there was a long time ago called Vampire Miyu, which was a Vampire Miyu, Miyu, and that was I did some young character voice in that. This guy had been killed or something, and that was a big animation series in Japan years ago. Yeah, so occasionally I get those kind of things too. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, thanks for telling me about that.
Yes, I mean I know that like we sent the questions ahead of time, but that was one that I found in some prior investigating. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the question. So.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay, well we've reached the end of the program. I want to reiterate, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. You've given us a lot of good memories over the years, probably more than you'll ever realize. But yes, thank you again. I really appreciate it. I mean, John, do you have any last words before we close out?
I just want to reiterate, thank you so much for being here. This has been a blast.
Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, I appreciate the. It's been fun for me. Think back about it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Brad. Don't let us hold you up. I know you got to get out of that hotel there.
That's crazy. We checked in yesterday after the show, and I said, "Can we get an hour later checkout?" Because I knew we were going to do this. They said no. So I said, "Thanks very much."
very, very prompt.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you very much. Good luck on your show. Hopefully, we'll keep in touch.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, great. This has been the Georgia Music Gamers podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.